Hi, my name is Michael A. Smith. I'm a writer. I love to write books. I like to read them. I even like to listen to them. But one of the lost arts is storytelling, which is odd since it had to be the first form of entertainment. My grandmother was a master at this art. When I was a small boy, I used to like to sit beside her on the sofa while she made up a story. So I thought what I would do is I would tell you the story from one of my published books, Secrets, which in hardcover is 228 pages and 76,000 words. However, I intend to tell this story in 8 sessions, each about 6 minutes. Now, the book opens with the protagonist, Frank Montgomery, asleep in bed after midnight. He gets a phone call. He answers the phone call. It's from Larry Nelson, who's a photographer at the Herald, where Frank, a reporter, also works. And Larry tells him that he's at the scene of a homicide. He first heard about it on a police scanner. It appears, he says, that the victim is one of Frank's neighbors, Vernon Ritchie. Now, Frank is fully awake, and the other thing he notices is that his wife, Lois, is not in bed. Okay, he's in panic mode now. He jumps up, he runs down the hallway to check on his children, 12-year-old Ben and 8-year-old Dee, but they're in bed asleep and appear to be okay. So then he goes downstairs to the first floor level and looks in the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen, as well as the balcony deck. No Lois. So he goes into the basement. And the basement has a sliding glass door leading out to the back lot. And coming through the door is Lois. And she's soaking wet. And Frank says to her, "Lois, where have you been?" She said, "I couldn't sleep, so I went out for a walk." Frank says, "In the rain? You're soaking wet." She says, "I forgot to take an umbrella," as she's bending over taking off very muddy hiking boots. So Frank gets in his car. He drives to the scene of the homicide, which is about a mile east and a mile north of his subdivision. As he turns onto the road, he can see cars from the sheriff's departments sitting alongside the road, blocking the road, blue lights whirling. There's even a deputy in rain gear standing out in the road to halt or direct traffic, although there are no cars out at this time of day, approximately 2 a.m. So Frank pulls his car over behind another car, and that belongs to Larry Nelson, who's standing out at the side of the road. So Frank gets out and says, what have you found? How do you know this is my neighbor? And Nelson says, "Well, I talked to Murray, the chief of detectives for the sheriff department. As you can see, he's standing over there in the field." So Frank yells, says, "Hey, Fatso, come on over here and talk to us." So this burly detective walks over to where they're standing, and Frank says, "I understand this is my neighbor who's been killed, Vernon Ritchie." And Murray says, "Well, that's unofficial, that's off the record. This is an ongoing investigation. There'll probably be a press conference conducted by the sheriff about 10 o'clock this morning, and then you'll learn all the details." And Frank says, "Look, I'm going to have to write this story up. We're going to have to run some pictures. We got to do that all for the morning edition. So why don't you tell us what you know off the record so we can get the facts right?" Well, Murray laughs and says snidely, "Well, getting the facts right would be a first for you, Frank." But he said, "I will tell you off the record. The dead man's identification indicates it's Vernon Ritchie. He apparently was brought out here in the trunk of his own car, bound and gagged. Somehow he got out, or he was let out, and then he was run down with his own car, several times in fact. The body was propped up against a real estate for sale sign, and it also bore several stab wounds. I don't know at this time what actually killed him, the car or the stab wounds. That'll be up to the medical examiner." So Frank says, "What about the killer? What have you found out?" And he said, "Well, the killer's in the wind. Either someone picked him up, he had an accomplice, or he just walked off." He said the deputies have found some footprints in the field going off in that direction. Frank follows his pointing finger, and it points right towards his subdivision. And the only thing he can think about is that his neighbor, Vernon Ritchie, is dead, and then his wife came home in the middle of the night wearing muddy hiking boots. So this is the first scene, and from now on, Frank's going to investigate this crime as a newspaper reporter and as a friend of the deceased. And what he's going to discover is that there were plenty of secrets in his neighborhood, and somebody may have killed to keep one of them quiet. And the person they killed may have been Frank's neighbor, Vernon Ritchie. So I hope you'll come with me and listen to the second session, where we will run down some of the suspects. In the meantime, if you want to find out more about the novel and about me, visit my website at www.goodnovels.org. I hope to see you again for the second session of Secrets. Thank you.